Hello. Thank you so much for listening or watching Junk to Jewels podcast with Georgette Beck. We're all about gathering those Junk to Jewels stories because they inspire us and give us hope and encouragement and sometimes education in the process. So today, I am so thrilled to introduce Michelle Steiner to you. She has lived with an invisible disability, and she has so many articles published. Several are on, let's see, The Mighty, a nonverbal learning project, a dyslexia blog, The Reluctant Spoonie. Oh, I'm curious about that one. Oh my gosh. I don't know if I'm saying this correctly, but Calopina Collective. Okay. Yep. Imagine the World as One Magazine and Word Gathering. And you have to check out her website, michellesmission.net. She has a wonderful written blog, lots of different articles there, and her photography is highlighted and showcased, some of her collections, journals and mugs and things like that. It's beautiful. So if you'd like to just inspire your heart right now, go to her website while you're listening even. And so check that out. So let's just dive right in. I know with these series, time is of the constraint, but share a little bit who you are and where you're from, and then start your journey. Share with us your journey.
Sure, be happy to. My name is Michelle Steiner. I live in Pennsylvania with my husband, Ron, and our two cats, Jack and Sparrow. And I work as a paraeducator in a school. And I'm also a disability writer and photographer with my own website, Michelle's Mission. And when I write about having a learning disability, and I have one myself, I was diagnosed with a learning disability in kindergarten. And my teacher noticed that I was really struggling with social skills, and I was struggling with math, counting, and I definitely just had some issues with my hand coordination. And so she recommended that I get tested for having a learning disability. And sure enough, I have one. We didn't know exactly how it was going to affect my life. At that point, they didn't even have specific learning disabilities other than dyslexia. So it was more of an umbrella term. Yeah. And I can remember in my young life just being really discouraged, being really frustrated, just wanting to learn like everybody else and just wanting to be successful. And faith was always really important in my life. My parents always took me to church. I was raised Catholic, and I just thank God and my family for planting those seeds in my life from such a young age. And I just wondered how God could ever use something like this to be able to, for any good to come out of it. I thought that life was always going to be difficult. And I can remember too, one of the things, eventually things started to work out though. I was receiving specialty instruction. We found out I was good at reading. We found out I was good at writing. And I was in all regular ed classes, except for math, with having the accommodations of extended test time and having the test read aloud to me. And then as I grew,
did they take you out of your class at the time back then?
Yes, they did. There are times they took me out of my class. I can remember I was taken out of my classes for tests and other things, especially when we had specialty instruction. So they would try to teach me how I could learn best rather than in a group of everyone. And in a lot of ways, that really helped me because just honing in on those areas that I was struggling with really made all the difference, except the math. We knew when I was young I wasn't going to be a mathematician. That was one area we just couldn't get out of doing the right. Yeah. I still needed a class for that. And I went through school, and it was still a struggle for me. It got easier academically because my grades improved. I found out what I was good at and what was working. Socially, it got really hard. And the bullying started when I was young, but it got worse when I was a teenager and groups became more defined. And God started to really work a lot in my life for planting a lot of the seeds for the future during that time. I was introduced to a faith-based agency that was just outside of our school district, and it had an art program. And I found some other students that were involved in the arts, and they didn't know about me. I could shed that reputation. And I started to see more of a relationship with God rather than we just went to church and it just wasn't as personal. And I could just see how God was just intervening in my life. And just at that point.
Oh, on something I hear this over and over again, not only in my life, but others, but the creative world, books, stories, and art has, I don't know if the word saved a lot of us, but guided and gave us a safe place or a place to plug in and develop roots and gain our identity. Can you relate to any of that? Can you talk on that?
Definitely. I could just find a safe place that I could be able to express myself. And that was the beginning of doing like the writing. And I've always found when I have friends who are writers or photographers or other kind of artists, those are the people I generally get along with more than other ones, because it gives you that chance to have that expression and that place. And you meet a lot of other people that are quirky and fun and
you develop your identity there. I think like you got comfortable in who you are, and it's okay.
Right.
I love it.
Yeah, exactly. And whenever I stopped hanging out with them, I reached out further in the community and I found a group of people that were into a writers group. And we still, after 20 some years later, meet once a month to discuss our writing, and we're in each other's lives beyond that.
Beautiful. I love it. That's so beautiful.
And
rich.
Yeah, exactly. And I just, we're still there. And it's just, all those years later. So that was a big part of one of my influences that came from that. And another thing was that was really significant whenever I was in high school, I was trying to figure out what do I want to do after my life. I knew after school, I definitely wanted to go to college, but I was a little afraid because I knew that it was going to be a challenge with the disability, especially with math. And I wasn't alone in my fears. I had a learning support teacher that said, I don't think you can go to college because of your math ability. So she suggested a trade school, and nothing there interested me.
Oh,
and so I know.
Oh, no.
And God started to bring people into my life at that point too. I can remember I had a student teacher the one year that said, you can go to college because you know how to study. And that just opened up a lot of doors. And then I had an agency, Office for Vocational Rehabilitation, contacted me, and I met with them, and they said, okay, you can go to college. And they recommended a lot of things, and I had to get tested for that, having a learning disability again after school. Mm-hmm. And it was really hard. I've never been a great test taker, and I ended up having a really low score on a lot of my test results. And a psychiatrist told me most likely won't go beyond community college. And I was already nervous. I thought maybe I would want to get my...
No. Oh my gosh. So what happened?
And I went back, and then I went on to school, and the stigma was really apparent with people that had used accommodations. It was, oh, you shouldn't be using them. They're giving you an unfair advantage. And I had a professor that told me, you're going to have limited job choices. And I didn't use them. And that wasn't the most wise decision because my grades really dropped. And finally, I had a professor in a science class I was struggling with. And she said, well, we at least get you extended test time. And I did that. And I passed her class, didn't do well in it. And I was able to pass my other ones. I graduated with an associate's degree in early childhood education. I was able to move out on my own. It was really nice for me because I lived in an area that had limited transportation in the country. So when I moved into town, I had more of a chance to be able to get around, not being able to drive as part of the disability. I was working in some centers with people who had disabilities, and it was temp work, and I enjoyed that. And I also decided I went to another church that wasn't Catholic and started to find myself spiritually outside of my parents' faith. And during that time, it was good, but I always wanted more for myself. And I guess be careful what you pray for. Because, yeah.
What did God do?
He decided that it was financially, I had to move back in with my parents. And
but
that was
he
hard.
He always does.
Oh,
Us or
he did.
for us.
He did. My job was down. Yes, my job was downsizing. And I decided this is the time to go back to university. And that I found the program that had the least amount of math, the least amount of science, had a program I loved, and had disability accommodations. And I could tell God was in this because at my parents' church, my mom was talking at a women's event and was saying, oh yeah, Michelle wants to go back to school. And it was with someone who was my cousin, and she worked on campus at the exact same place I was going to school at. And she lived nearby, and she said, I have no problems with picking her up and taking her.
Gosh. I
So
thought that
I had,
divine appointment right there. Amazing.
so I'm like, oh, this is definitely a time to go back to, this is just what God wants me to do. And yeah, it certainly was. And I was able to go back, and it was so much better. I used the disability accommodations, and I had a note taker. I had extended test time, and my grades improved. I made Dean's List first semester, and I was able to graduate with a bachelor's degree. Yeah.
What an honor. Oh my God. I love it.
And it took me a while to find the job that I'm at now, working with students that have disabilities. And I also got a chance to get some articles published and start my own blog about life with a learning disability. I had a friend years ago in my writing group who told me, you should really write about having a learning disability. And I told her that was too personal. And I think I wrote some really bad stories and some really bad poetry. And when I finally got the courage, though, to do that, it was the most healing thing I've ever done. And it just encouraged me to write more. And I also started with photography. And yeah.
Michelle, did bullying continue in high school?
Yes, it did. It was
Nobody really understood yet then. I love that nowadays. See, you guys are the trendsetters. You guys help pave the way and bring understanding. When I went to college, they had that in place. I remember watching even people come in and help take notes sometimes for other students. And it was just like part of the culture. But because I went back to school later in life, God did what he did for you. He brought school back for me. Sure. But education, don't you love how education empowers us?
It certainly does, because now we know what to look for. We understand how to handle situations. And even when I work as a paraeducator, sometimes being bullied, that has helped me help some other students. I remember I had a student that was getting picked on, and I said, maybe you can report it, definitely. But I said, maybe since these girls don't want to sit with you at lunch, maybe you should just find another place. And if they ask you, why are you sitting somewhere else? Just say, I'm trying out some new seats. And we were in the principal's office, and that's the same advice that they gave. And sure enough, she had that situation where people were like, so why aren't you sitting here? And just trying out some new seats. And that was a way to just get her out of the situation and be able to handle it without a whole lot of adult intervention.
Yeah. Oh, isn't it fascinating? The older I get and the more stories and people I meet and the books I read, how our very worst wounds and pain, when you're in the faith world, for sure, God utilizing every heart pain you experience and every tear you cried. He remembers every tear, but he uses it to bring joy to us later.
Yes.
Minister or encourage someone that only our heart can understand what they're feeling. And that's
definitely.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's one of the things that I love is I get to help other students. And I honestly think if I wouldn't went through what I did, I don't know how empathetic I would be. Of course, I would feel bad, but I know what that's like for a lot of my students, and it helps me.
Yeah. Yeah, because each carries something different. And I love how, what we carry that is so powerful too. And we need to step up. And I like that word you use, courage. You weren't ready to share your heart yet because it's very vulnerable and you just wanted to move on into your new life. But it's when you had that courage and you started writing, it not only helped you even still later, but it also paved the way for a whole new career and things.
Right.
Get to do things that bring you joy and passion. I looked at your website and I love the bright colors and just gorgeous photography. Gorgeous.
Thank you.
Yeah. So how long have you been a what's the exact title?
Paraprofessional, but yeah, I have done that for about 13 years now.
Oh my gosh. You're paving a way for them to find themselves and their own giftedness through you're being able to be there and help understand what's happening in their classroom and curriculum.
Yes, I just find it so rewarding to be able to help students be able to do that because somebody helped me a long time ago and now I get that chance to do that with them.
Now I have a question. Do you ever come across adults? Because I know a lot of adults were undiagnosed and I've actually known folks in my different careers that struggle with that in their profession. And not everyone in their profession understands or how to interact with them. Have you had that opportunity to just share yourself with other adults?
Sometimes maybe other adults, yeah, I have found that because I don't look like I have a disability, people will often think, oh, why can't you do the math or have that expectation? Like I've had some jobs where people thought, oh, the reason you're making mistakes is because you're not trying or you should know what you're doing. So yes, I think that there is sometimes other adults don't understand that or other adults don't understand. Part of my disability with the math is I confuse my left from my right. So I had a job before where I was putting shoes on kids after they fell off and I mixed up their feet. And I can remember I had a boss that said, you really need to work on making sure that they're on the right feet. And I tried explaining, and I don't think the person understood it at that time.
You called it the invisible disability and a lot of people don't understand unless they've been educated.
Exactly.
I was an educator briefly, so I'm very much aware of those things in the school. And I'm, like I said, in college or university too, I love to see that they've incorporated it now. It's part of the culture. Learning style are you? And I love that. And I hope there's less bullying now. Is there less bullying that you've seen?
I think it's still hard for a lot of our students that go through the school. Unfortunately, they're put with the classes and other people can see a lot of that. And I think what also has just gone and changed is I get that chance to speak up when I see it. Excuse me. And I get that opportunity. And I wish that people wouldn't do that. I certainly wish they wouldn't.
Me too, because it's just part of we're all different. I wear glasses, for goodness sakes. I remember I was told as a little girl, because you didn't want to be different as a kid, you don't want to be different. You don't want any extra attention.
No.
I struggled with insecurity back then, so it was even worse. But I would not wear them, but then it would start to catch up with the learning and all. But you didn't want to wear glasses because they called you all kinds of names. But now I own it. Now it's
exactly. You get to a point where you do own that and you're comfortable and you make peace with it. I used to feel bad about not being able to do math. And I thought, well, if I could only learn how to do math or if I could only drive or do all this stuff, then that would complete me. And it didn't. I wasn't able to do that. But now I just have such a peace about that. And I was in class a couple of days ago helping some students, and there was a math question. And the kids all know, do not ask me for help for math or else they'll find that out pretty quickly. And a kid said to me, why don't you understand it? You're an adult. And that gave me the opportunity to say, even if I'm an adult, everybody has something that they struggle with. Some people struggle with math and other people might struggle with other things. And I think that's a really good way just to be humble and to show that each of us has something. And I even got humorous responses. I had a little girl that I was working in a first grade room, and they had a math class, and I got the answer wrong, and she couldn't believe it. And they said, "Oh, I really struggle with math." And she said, "There's grown-up school for that." And I just had to laugh.
Yeah. I love kids. I love they're so nice and they're so perfect. They just say the truth. I love it. Oh my God. Now, how did you come across, you found photography? How did you find that as one of your passions?
I can remember I had a friend years ago. I did some photography, and I think I took pictures at prom of a tree. And an older woman said, "Wow, this picture shows perspective." And all my peers were like, "Why'd you take a picture of a tree?" And somebody could see that in me, but I couldn't see it. I thought I didn't have any artistic ability other than writing. And I started taking pictures, and we were at a wedding, my husband and I, and then we went to a graveyard where they had some beautiful angel statues. And I took a picture of an angel. And I had another friend that was really particular, and she saw the pictures and she said, "These pictures are amazing." And I thought, okay, if she likes this, there must be something good. And sure enough, I entered in a show, and I ended up winning a prize for one of them, a small prize. And I started taking more pictures, and it just really wasn't, yeah. And it just encouraged me to do that. And then people will tell me, "You really bring out the detail in flowers that I would miss."
I love flowers. I got it. I love it. And I love your photos that they do capture the details. I love it. Well, I'm like you, where photography, I take pictures of everything. So, in a lot of things. So even grass blades,
Yeah.
branches, I'm with you on that. Oh, I love it. It's so nice to meet someone like that shares that in common. So let's see, 13 years. Do you have a favorite scripture?
Yes, I love, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord." That is one of my favorite ones, because I can just see how God has brought his plans forward and has used that in my life.
Is that the Jeremiah 29:11?
Yes.
Mine too. And it's true. And he does. And I'm old enough to tell. Yes, he does. When he says he's going to restore something in your life or show you his purpose in you, he creates us, and there's a destiny purpose. And if we missed it, if we made our own detour by a mistake or not knowing our worth or value, he gets us on the right path, like he did for you, Michelle. Oh my gosh. So do you have a favorite book?
I like My Sister's Keeper by Jodi Picoult. I just love how it presents both sides, and just the storyline is great.
I love Jodi Picoult. I collect her books. I missed some of her recent ones, but I have a whole collection. She's such a powerful writer. Yeah, she shows the different perspectives. Isn't that? And then I love this question too, because I have a list of people that I actually would have loved to met in real life. But if there was someone you could sit down and have a cup of coffee with or tea from the past or present, who would it be and why?
I think what I would love to do is a lot of the family and friends that have passed in my life. There's been a lot of people that have, and I would just love to sit down with each of them and have a cup of tea or coffee.
Oh, that's so beautiful. I love that. If there's a young one listening, because I interview folks of all ages, there's going to be people listening of all ages. If there's a young one in grammar school or high school or even college, or an adult who's in his or her career, and they're struggling with reading or understanding and those kind of things, what would you say to them?
I would really encourage them to know what they want to do and to be able to find a way to do it, and to seek out the resources that are out there, because a lot of colleges, especially if they receive federal money, are required to provide disability services. And there's even private ones that do that as well. It's just looking out and seeing what resources are available and finding a way to be able to do it. And I also love to tell people that success doesn't always come in the package that we expect it to, but oftentimes it comes in something even better.
Truth. Oh my goodness. And you said it perfectly. I love that. And yes, and have the courage to ask the questions. What are your past, what do they love? What do you love? And what are you good at? What are some of the skills? What do you love playing? What do you like watching or doing? That kind of guides you into what you could check out. Maybe you are into art too. Maybe you like pictures, or maybe it is a technical career and you were scared of the math and required reading or what have you. But I love it. And there are so many resources now because the subject, people have become much more aware and educated on it. And it's not something to be afraid of. And there's so much help in the community and at the schools. So embrace that. Who cares? We all learn differently. I know when I read something, especially science for me scared me. But when I read something, I have to read it more than once sometimes because I don't comprehend it the way other people do. And I read all of the time. So each of us are different. Michelle, thank you so much for being a guest on Junk to Jules podcast. And I love it. So folks can see you. They can go check you out at your michellesmission.net, michellesmission. And that will be in the show notes. And there will also be other information. Is there social media they could follow you at too?
Yes. I'm on Facebook and Instagram as well.
Excellent. And Michelle Steiner, thank you so much. And you guys go keep learning, keep trying, keep asking. Don't ever give up because God has a mission. He's got a plan. You are created to do something spectacular. So start asking those questions. And I do believe faith is an important foundation because those things do lead us and guide us in awesome ways. So God bless everyone. Thank you for being with us with Junk to Jules podcast with Georgette Beck. I can't even say my own name, and Michelle Steiner. So God bless and have a beautiful day. And don't forget, if you're not following Georgette Beck on Facebook or Instagram, please go ahead and follow. And then please download this show and follow Junk to Jules podcast with Georgette Beck. We have several guests coming along to share their challenging moments and their inspiration. Thank you for listening and watching. Take care.